Welcome to the GameChanger 00100 show. I am your host, GameChanger. Well, shall I begin? So, Myron Gaines, to give like a history on how I feel about this guy. He has a show, Fresh and Fit. It's one of those shows that I used to watch and I don't anymore. And not because I don't like the guy, but just because I've seen Florida women before, and I don't think that any episode is going to be too much different than the previous one. And I know everything gets repetitive after a time, but I didn't see a need to watch it for that reason. And then he started with the race stuff, and then it just started to get really, really weird. One of the things that has gotten him a lot of enemies is the dating coach stuff. He decided, well, I'm going to be a dating coach. Now I think that I am going to teach men how to date. I'm going to teach average men how to date exceptional women as a not average man. And by not average man, I mean not average income man. No matter what, it's going to be vastly different. Also, there's a social status being famous or internet famous. So me as a man with, money and status, I'm going to teach men without money and status how to date said women. Not good. Also, there is an awareness of how problematic women are. And to be a dating coach for said women is to basically lean into these problems. It's like, listen, there's a minefield over there, and I'm going to teach you how to step on the mines. I'm not going to teach you how to navigate around them. I'm going to teach you how to step directly on the mines. And I'm going to make sure that you are as fat as possible before doing so. So that aspect of it, I'm like, okay, I'm going to leave this alone, especially anytime a person's dating strategy is get rich. It really doesn't require outside help for that. I think everyone knows, especially if you're a guy of average income, that you would do better with the women if you're rich and famous. So there really isn't much nuance to that, which is one of the main reasons why I was like, okay, this guy, I'm not going to watch the show. Now, had he stayed away from the race angle and the dating coach angle, which is probably a small percentage of his income, then he probably would do a lot better. And I would even catch the show from time to time. He would do better because he wouldn't be demonetized. He would do better because he wouldn't be demonetized, and people would say, okay, this is just an entertaining show, and he is highlighting women's nature. But he just couldn't stay away from it. Now, the interesting thing is that the dating show stuff, the dating advice stuff is what brought on the enemies initially. And it was the enemies that brought on the race stuff, and it was the race stuff that brought on the demonetized, and that's where he is. And poor Fresh Prince CEO, he's just there. He had a cash cow. That cash cow is slaughtering itself. And he's just there like, okay, I'm going to enjoy the ride. I'm going to enjoy these, big breasted Asian women, for as long as it can. But this guy is sinking what would have been a perfectly healthy ship. So apparently Myron did a video, and this video he wrote a book, and I don't want to misquote it. So let me get the name of that book. Hold on one moment. Somebody sent me an email on that, and I'm going to send that. What in the hell is this? Okay, now we're going to talk about this. And I don't know what this is. So bear with me. Yeah, I change the subject from time to time, but because I go into my Instagram looking for that post, and then I see something that distracted me, and now I'm distracting you with it. So let's do this. Let's do this for a second. Oh wait, did I press the wrong button? Oh no, here it is. Okay. All right. Now, as many of you know, because I mentioned it on yesterday's show, I am in search of a new crush because Kelly Stamps is engaged. What TF is this? What is this? Is she somebody famous? What in the world is this? Somebody help me. Why did this come up on my feed? She actually has a decent stomach here, but I think this one, she's like pregnant or something. Or maybe like this one is the one without the filters and stuff. What is this? Is she famous? Who's Suki's flexing? Vacation vibes. We are all for it. Why are you for it? Internet is a weird place. Instagram, I don't Instagram much. Those of you who are, who send me stuff here, I review and respond to it. If I can, if I feel that, it makes the cut for content. But man, anyway, in my Instagram, I get a notice that says, why would Myron write a book called Why Women Deserve Less while sculpting men on how to provide women more? Now, that's an interesting question. And of course, yeah, it was a post in a video that we're going to review. And in the video, people were just simply calling him a hypocrite. I think it's a lot deeper than that. What I think Myron is actually attempting to do is something that is not done successfully anymore. He's taken the Tom Likas approach. You see, he calculates that you can present yourself as wealthy and women will let you sample the goods for the possibility of access to that wealth, but not actually giving it to them. So say, you're a guy, you got some coins in the bank, you're a seven-figure plus earner a year, and you drive the cars, you got the fancy, place, you got the boats, you got the hotels, you got all this stuff. What he calculates is women will sleep with you with hopes to marry you, with hopes to dot, dot, dot one day, with hopes to get access to your wealth one day. That's his plan. It doesn't work that way anymore. That's what Tom Likas used to do. Tom Likas, by his own admission, is a grotesquely unattractive man, but his sex life comprised of gold diggers who were giving out free samples in order for you to, in order for them to have an opportunity to have access to your money. And he would just get full off of the free samples. I don't think that women operate like that anymore. And I don't know for sure because I'm not on that economic level. Let's start there. I'm not on that economic level. However, it does appear as if, from what I see online, from what I'm hearing, that especially like the sprinkle crew, which is, what Myron is talking about. He's talking about getting full off the sprinkles. He's talking about just eating these women's sprinkles as they attempt to fleece him. I don't think that women who are doing that are doing it before any finances have been exchanged any longer. Now, I'm not talking about direct pay for play. What I'm talking about is they want you to spend something first. They want a sample of your wealth first. Just like you want to sample them, they want to sample your wealth first, which includes things like, you have to take me here, or you have to, take me out to eat here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which is a financial exchange and, to be quite frank, of substance. So, yes, they are willing to let you hit on the first date. However, that first date is going to be substantial. And that's the exchange. I'm okay with a person that does that, especially if that first date is a minuscule or a negligible amount of your income. However, that's not something that you teach. I mean, a guy pretty much knows that. Become wealthy and, um, show women a good time, a time that they can't afford themselves. Let them post about said good time and then smash. Now, there's really no guarantee that you're going to smash. So, ... Somebody brings up a good point. He says, just buy it at that point. Well, yeah, yes and no. Because, so here's the pros and cons for just buying it at that point. One, if you just buy it, it's guaranteed. And I'm going to keep the illegal part out of it. One, if you just buy it, it's guaranteed. So that's a pro for just buying it. A con is it's a one and done. So that's the pro and con for that. Now, the pro for what I described, the whole splurging date thing, is there's a possibility that you get more encounters. It's not going to be a one and done. Chances are, at least in that first night, you get it at night and you get it in the morning, which, as opposed to just buying it, you would have to pay for two and overnight stay and all that stuff, because I think they charge for the hour. So if she charge, I'm just throwing a number out there. If she charge $100 an hour and you sleep with her, that's going to be $800. Or if you spend $100 on the date, and she's impressed, you smash in the morning, sleep, wake up, and it's right there, and you smash again, and that was just $100 or however much an extravagant date costs nowadays. So that's the pro for dating. Now the con is it's no guarantee, and a lot of women, particularly modern women, what they like to do is like, okay, I want to see how far this rabbit hole goes. So I got him to spend this much. He bought me prime rib on the first date. I'm going to make him wait and see what I can get from him on a second date. And a guy, considering that he already invested on the first date, he's going to want to invest again on the second date, and she's more prone to string you along, meaning that you could potentially spend more money and not get anything. So that's weighing the pros and cons of both methods. Good question or good point. I want y'all to keep in the chat room on those points. Greatly appreciate it. Keep coming. All right. So after getting this in my Instagram, something else about Myron came up from none other than O'Shea Duke Jackson, who is not a fan of his work. And I think he's not a fan of his work because, O'Shea, he takes this whole interracial dating as sacrilege or you're a heretic or something like that, which is something that Black women can and do often, far too often, leverage against Black men. So I'm not going to even, I'm not going to give them the ability to exploit me, and nor would I encourage others to give solidarity to them, knowing that it can be leveraged against them. And it is leveraged against them. Leverage the box, fellas. Remember that was said by Black women. So that being said, let's see. Going to I see something here that I'm going to say. Maybe I'll talk about it later in the show and I'll watch it with you all. But in the meantime, what I'm looking up is the O'Shea Duke Jackson video about Myron Gaines, and this is just to give you like a sample of his personality. Now, I think the person that sent me the video, and I'm not going to say who, really he detests Myron Gaines more than I do, and for his own reasons. And I'm going to try to not make this a hit piece against Myron Gaines, but he is an extraordinarily flawed person, and it might turn out being that anyway. We'll just have to see where it goes. In the meantime, O'Shea Duke Jackson. Let's see. I just seen it this morning. Why is it so difficult to find? All right, here we go. All right, hit that like button. I'm queuing this.
It's your boy, O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of The Celebrity Junk. So guys, Myron is going viral for all of the wrong reasons. He was in, it appears, New York City one day, and he was out there, and of course, while he was...
Is that Spider-Man? I don't go to New York. I don't like large congested cities, but even though I did enjoy Miami. But is this Spider-Man? Y'all have people that just stand around a Spider-Man in Elmo? That's just New York? A midget in an Elmo costume, or a kid, or what is that?
was out there. It appears that a black woman came out to confront him about some of the commentary that he had been producing earlier on. I will say that this clip is quite disturbing. It is quite booty clappish. But let's see what's going on there.
Myron, you piece of shit. Hey, Myron. I've been waiting for you, Myron. Do you hate your mother?
Black women really lack individual thought. And I noticed that in dating them. Rarely, if ever, in personal interactions with a black woman, it's like immediately you can see that they're part of the sisterhood and that they get their information and arguing and discussion points from the exact same sources. Especially now that social media exists, you don't see any nuance. Just talking to somebody recently, like, I can't believe black men, are backing DDG, and they're condemning Haley Bailey. And I didn't even know who she was, or I know who Haley Bailey was. I didn't know about DDG, and I know that they were going through stuff. I didn't know anything and really didn't care, but they watched the Manosphere. Let's start there. They watched the Manosphere. That being said, they have the same views on everything. And this has been going on for a while. Like, we're not protected. Like, you'll hear an argument or a talking point online, and then you'll see them say it instantly, like in real life. You'll start seeing it, like, we're not protected. What do you bring to the table? I've heard all of this. It's like, are you kidding me? Do you have any original thoughts, or do you at least pretend? So that being weird, and you don't really see that with white women, but maybe if I were part of the broader white manosphere or something like that, I would. But no, I don't hear like the same catchphrases either. And one of the catchphrases that you will always hear is, "Your mama black, do you treat your mama like that?" And that's before the Manosphere. That has been going on since a while. since before the internet, actually.
No, I hate.
Okay, so you must hate yourself.
No, that would be you.
So Myron,
That would be you.
look at my titty. You like what?
So apparently this woman just showed her tits and said, look at these black titties. Okay. All right. This is an embarrassment for both black men and black women. And it's more of an embarrassment for black women, but let me just explain how this is an embarrassment for black men. The fact that she expects that, or she believes that he would change his tune about black women once he's seen their titties, once he's seen her titties, really shows how she views black men. There's a reason that she's come to that conclusion. You know, that any belief, any strong belief that a man has will be, withdrawn once he's seen some titties. Apparently, men are so thirsty, black men are so thirsty that they're just one pair of titties away from changing their convictions. Now, that may or may not be true. However, she believes it to be true. And she's come to that conclusion from the behaviors of black men, the thirst and desperation. Moving on.
Be next to her.
Okay, listen, Myron, why are you such a piece of shit?
Bro.
Tell me why you.
And by the way, this is not an attractive woman. I'm going to continue with that. This is not an attractive woman, but she feels that I don't really have to be attractive once I show my tits.
Respect black women. Do you hate your mom that much? I heard you have a sister. Does your sister listen to your bullshit?
You do.
I don't give a f. They're gonna stay out because I don't like you. I don't know. You're disgusting. Let's go.
They're still out. This is New York. See, people think I trash places just to trash. Like I trash Mississippi, New York, and not Miami, Florida. But it's always something going on in these places that I hear about that's just so egregious that I'm like, oh man, that must be a weird place that I never want to go to. And they proved me right. They somebody in the chat room said they got naked cowboys walking down the street. I don't want to be around that. I don't want to see like a naked cowboy walking around the street and just the general society thinks it's okay. I used to date somebody from New York. She told me that y'all have crackheads that bag groceries. I don't want to deal in that crap. I don't want to be in a place where crackheads bag groceries. What kind of crap is that? So it's always with good reason. I don't just trash places to trash it. And, after a while, it's this is what's going on. A woman with her tits out talking crap about how you feel about your mama.
Bigger is. I think you have small energy. Tights are little.
Oh, she's actually showing. I heard this before I seen it. She's actually trying to show his crotch. So the whole sexual shaming thing, that's straight out of their playbook. They do not stray from the playbook. They're like a football team that use the same playbook every year, and other teams know it, and you just watch them lose.
A little tight. What the f are you wearing? You look like
This creature, bro.
oh yo, I'm your worst motherfucking nightmare. A confident black. Here, look.
I'll tell you. Oh wow, you're bald too.
Yeah.
You're bald.
I got to stand you a piece.
She said, "I got more hair than you." He's a man. That's like saying you got bigger titties than him.
Oh wow.
Everything you do is a piece of shit. Like that. 10 million, I wouldn't you, Myron. You're a piece of shit.
You got it.
Yeah, I don't give a. You African. Oh, you're Sudanese. You hungry. That's why you angry. You hungry. That's why you angry. I'm African. I'm like you.
Okay, now she's taking ad hominems at Africans. Yes, I'm take my shots. I do state that they make crappy movies, and they do. And they make crappy Instagram shorts or YouTube shorts, and they do. But she took it to a different level.
You are not.
What?
You know what you look like?
Why are you looking so ashy?
Because you're
so
ashy.
Why are you
Because
looking
your
so
ashy.
Okay.
Because your mama
You
lips
just suck my
ashy.
dick then.
Because your mama lips ashy.
Then which one is
Because
it?
your mama lips ashy. You a Sudanese.
Why does she look like the brick lady? Why does she look like the brick bitch and the therapist at the same time? Like, whatever syndrome they have, it's genetic. And like it comes from the same mitochondrial DNA of one crazy bitch from a long time ago. And it just passed down to women that look like this, that just walk around with their tits out, randomly twerking and pretending like somebody hit them in the face with a brick or whatever kind of weirdness going on. So Myron, with all of the race stuff he has, she decides to take her tits out and prove him right.
Is that why you're angry?
I think you're the one that looks like.
Is that why you're angry?
You're
I don't give
crashing
a. I want to give Myron his own medicine.
I know you.
Yes.
I don't know.
You get the out of here.
Someone needs to get this back to the
Yeah.
Crazy. This is crazy.
I have it. I'll send it to you. He's a piece of shit and he's black. He's a clown. He's black and
You're back to the wrong.
People just gathered around.
Too, man.
I don't like him.
Oh,
He literally brings women on his podcast, and men that like him, I don't with you. If you're I'm blocking you. He is garbage. I don't like that. I don't with that. I don't even want to tag him. I don't want his clout. He makes me sick. I hate that man. He needs to be embarrassed everywhere. He's so disgusting. I heard everything. You call me you call me ashy. Your mama is a monkey ass. Like you. Like anyone who's a black man and you're making fun of a black woman, your mom.
I don't see anything wrong with calling somebody monkey or ape if there is a resemblance. Which, though she's not an attractive woman, I don't really see monkey on her or ape. She's just an ugly ass human. That being the case, it does show lack of nuance on Mario's side when he's calling her monkey because, what appears to be her ethnicity. It shows, he's really down there as far as creativity goes, and spewing the talking points of others with her. He's less animated about it, so it comes off different. It hits different. And he's not trying to garner unpaid attention like she is with her tits out. Nevertheless, the lack of nuance is the same. Hit the like button.
Is a black. How your mama look?
Now, there's a lot of things we had to do for that clip to be admissible. You guys don't know, she did remove her bra, asked him about do he like black breasticles and all of this. It was crazy. All right. And a lot of these stranger things are starting to happen to Myron. And what I will say, as a content creator, this is very scary. It's scary. Why is it scary? Because what if that person is crazy enough to just start shooting? Like, forget that somebody is crazy enough to come and walk up to you and remove their bra and start confronting you and arguing with you. Forget about that. That person's already crazy, but that person, to me, is already, you're one step closer to somebody coming up to you and doing something completely ridiculous that is either very difficult for you to come back from or life-threatening.
That's a stretch. I don't know what the suggestion is to counter that, because like the CEO of United Healthcare, like what controversial thing did he say publicly? I mean, if you are known by millions of people, there's always that threat that one of those people are not stable. So that that doesn't really hold much.
Life ending. And the thing is, a lot of these content creators that are streaming, and I will say, a lot of these guys talking about stuff like that, I've been talking whatever, they kind of still maybe feel immortal and stuff like this. But the reality is that now that I'm like in my mid 40s, and when I was 20s and 30s, I wasn't thinking about not being here forever. But man, I woke up this morning, my back was hurting, and I'm like, oh shoot, time is winding down. I'm not a young dude no more. Like, I'm not really. This is my days is numbered like a mug, right? And the one thing that I don't want to do is for somebody to come up and whack me over the side of the head because I was dissing a whole community on YouTube. And because somebody is crazy. I mean, people have been killed for work for.
I do worry about some things. Being whacked over the head isn't really one of them. It's not.
For less, and I just don't think that the people understand the danger in losing your life because of something that didn't help you in the first place. And a lot of the things I've seen, and you guys have been
in the first place. He's rich. He's rich and famous. It did help him in the first place.
And follow me for a minute, and you've seen some of the content creators who have come and gone. I'm not talking about those who have died, but let's say those who have fallen off. They lost their page. They've gotten kicked off the platform. And, they got kicked off the platform for doing something stupid. Somebody like Tommy Sotomayor, people like that, or, you may even say Obsidian, somebody like that. And then you think about, like, why they got kicked off, and was it necessary? Like, did them getting kicked off or losing their money or losing their income?
It's interesting. It seems like Obsidian spends more money on his suits than his teeth. Should be the other way around.
Did it make any sense at all? Like why did it make sense? Now you don't have anything, okay? And so you lost it over a stupid ass opinion, or it wasn't as extreme, right? Could it have been less extreme? Then you lose all of your financial abilities. Now look at this guy. He's potentially about to lose his life. He's very close to losing his entire life, guys. And like, as much as I think that Myron is an asshole, as much as I think that Myron is basically not a good person, as much as I know that he did a lot of stuff behind the scenes, talking trash about people, hating on Kevin Samuels, doing a whole bunch of stuff. As long as I know that, what I wish that somebody would come and do something bad to him. No, but it's coming. It's coming. It is literally coming. The way that this game's work. And I always talk about, man, one of the scary things about doing this content creation business is like people know you and you do not know who they are. Like, for example, there are times I might be out and
okay. I think he's done with the good stuff. He's just blizz blazzing now. So I'm gonna move on. But yeah, so to get an understanding of the type of crap that he goes through, I thought it was interesting that I was going to do a video on Myron Games anyway, and O'Shea did this one this morning. So, I found that interesting. Somebody asked the question, where is the old man at, GC? Well, he's still on Rumble. And actually, believe it or not, I'm still subscribed to him on Instagram. So his stuff comes up and he's on Rumble if you want to see him there. I don't actually know how to unfollow or unsubscribe to someone on Instagram. And I really don't want to go through the motions because I'm not on Instagram enough to care. So yeah, that's pretty much that. Oh, whoever this Sky Jackson is, she's kind of cute. So yeah, so I'm on Instagram, and that's I'm trying to look what's the last thing he did, because he was, looks like he has an interview with somebody, or he's interviewing with somebody. Who knows? But do I ever watch him on Rumble? No, I never took the time out to subscribe to Rumble or him there, and I don't know if it's doing well or not. I do know that he is suffering from a financial blow for not having a YouTube channel, so that sucks. I mean, but what can you do? Don't stalk women on YouTube. Don't stalk women on YouTube. That's like the start. But anyway, enough on Obsidian. All right, so let's see. Now, in the clip, or in the Instagram post that was sent to me, it was a link to a channel called The Better Bachelor. Now, I've heard a lot about him. Obviously, he's in the broader manosphere, but never really watched him. And good stuff, competent dudes. I'll watch his channel. I don't have anything against him. And he had something to say about Myron Gaines, so we're gonna watch this together. Hit the like button, please. Okay, that's music, so let me just go further. What is this? Too many red pill men are missing a plot. Why is she squeezing an orange in her face?
My name is Joker, with a face for radio and a voice for print. I am.
That's a funny thing to say.
I'm currently out looking for land for the men's retreat. Haven't found too much luck yet. A lot of it is very hilly or kind of swampy in the price range that I'm looking to spend. But so far we're making progress. We'll find something here very, very soon. But while I was out here, I actually posted this to Twitter last night, and it's something I wanted to talk a little bit more about today, because I see something that is still occurring, and I'm kind of confused about it. Maybe you guys can help me understand a little bit. I want you to imagine you're going in for a minimum wage job. It's minimum wage. They're going to pay you the least amount they can legally by law. That's what they've agreed to pay you. Yet they want you to have a 4-year degree, and they want you to be able to be on call 24/7, and they want you to be able to take no vacation. You don't get any medical aid or medical insurance. You don't get any no benefits, no bonuses, nothing. All you get is minimum wage, but you have to have a ton of requirements to get it. And then on top of that, you've got men's channels that are giving you advice on the best way to get that job. Now, if you were to ask yourself, well, that's kind of stupid. Why would I need a 4-year degree and jump through all these hoops just for a minimum wage job? And why would men's channels be advertising to help me do that? That's stupid. Why don't they tell us actually how to succeed in life or do something better? Now,
okay. He has a great point here. For those of you who missed it, the analogy is modern women are the minimum wage crap jobs. And Myron, of course, would be the one that is telling men to become more educated, ... just to get those minimum wage crap jobs. I think the analogy is flawed, because the law actually requires that you pay people a minimum wage. The law doesn't require that women fuck you or do anything for you a minimum amount of time. So it's actually worse. It's actually worse than that. It's worse than a minimum wage job. It's literally like signing up to a job that may pay you. Like, and it's not really a paycheck, it's a tip. Every now and again, through all the blood, sweat, and tears, your boss comes up to you and says, "Hey, you've been doing a good job. Here's 2 bits." I don't know what a bit is. I heard that on an old timey like Western or something. Give me 2 bits. I don't know how much money that is, but it doesn't seem like it's a lot of money. That's actually what it is right now. So, yeah, I don't feel that men should encourage men to make the extra effort to get into that situation. Now, we have to explore why they did. And I'm talking about, if we go back into the analogy, why did people take crap jobs for crap wages before? And when I say crap jobs, I'm talking about coal miner. And, you know, I know coal miners still exist today, but it's different now than it was back then. Back then, coal miners were dying early from black lung disease. So there's roof tarrers. And I think that they probably do today. Roofers probably do today. I don't know what safety precautions they have. So there are jobs that aren't high in pay, and these would be considered crap jobs. You know, since unionization, you know, and all the factory jobs. You know, there didn't used to be like a minimum wage. There didn't used to be like weekends off. I think that they just got Sunday off. So, you know, Saturday off wasn't a thing. 8-hour work days wasn't a thing. You know, there was a lot of progress made to the comfort and conditioning of the workforce, you know, in the past 100 years or so. It looks like they're trying to roll that back, but that's a story for another day. So people are taking crap jobs. Let's start there. People are taking crap jobs. Our people in American history have taken crap jobs. People in America, more likely immigrants back when immigrants existed in America, you know, they're taking crap jobs as well. So we have to ask ourselves why. And the truth of the matter is that's all that's out there. And if you look at other countries where, you know, wherever your shoes are made, it's made by somebody who has a crap job. You got to ask yourself, why are these people working these crap jobs? And the reason for that is it's all that's available to them. That's one reason. And part two of that reason is the employers know that that's all that's available to them. Once you have those two factors going on, then the whole power dynamic is at play there. It's clear, you know, you going to have a oppressed class of people once those two things are understood. That's what leverage is. That's how leverage works. So what Myron is saying essentially is how to become the most appealing crap worker so you can get hired at the crap job or have multiple crap jobs. That's essentially what he's saying. And this guy's against that. This guy is more of, okay, we need to unionize and organize, you know, that way we won't have crap jobs in the future. And that's why American jobs are only crappy to Americans by American standards. All right, let's continue. Oh, somebody said something interesting. And if you quit the job, you have to pay them. Well, in this analogy, if you quit the job, you still have to work there because you're providing labor. So where in the relationship you're providing wealth. But yeah, if you quit the job or if you get fired, you still have to work there.
Who I'm specifically calling out here, it's not really calling out it because I don't want to call out Myron Gaines is who I'm speaking of over on Fresh and Fit. I don't want to call him out because a lot of what he says makes sense. I think a lot of what he says is actually good. But what I don't understand is this fascination with men and men's channels where they want to push you to lie, coerce, and better yourself, or lie to women, I guess I should say, and course and become a better man and raise your social market value for whores, for women that are not going to accept you in your natural state without you pretending to be something you're not, just to what, sleep with them and maybe catch something. This
is where I disagree with this guy. It takes no effort to lie to a woman. It's a very easy thing to do. It takes no effort to lie to a woman. And quite frankly, if she is a whore, you don't owe her the truth because essentially she's lying to you. She's lying and deceiving to try to get something out of you. It makes perfect sense for you to do the same, to her. He's also downplaying the value of sex, or maybe Myron is upplaying it. I don't know. And there's also an exaggeration of the effort. It seems like that. So this is my critique of him. I don't have anything against this guy. It's my first time watching this channel, but that's my critique of him. And here's why. I don't like it if it's what he's doing is borderline depolicing. It is. And rest in peace. I had this discussion with ARC. If I want to lie to a chick, then that's my business. Have I ever told like a ridiculously elaborate lie? No. But if a woman says something like, and I always use this analogy, I don't F Scorpios. I'll just say like, oh yeah, I'm a Sagittarius, or what do you F? If you're that stupid, then by all means, you deserve to be lied to. Like, I mean, and it's typically, the lies that I have told is typically something like that. It's something that's just so stupid that they deserve. You know how they say a fool and his money are soon parted? A foolish woman and her panties are soon parted. You're stupid. You don't deserve the truth. You're not even smart enough to realize that a person would lie about their zodiac to fuck you. You're stupid. Anyway. Somebody said something. Holy crap. It takes a lot of effort to lie because you have to keep lying and you have to remember your lies. Yes. However, if you are looking to continue to engage with that person indefinitely, then you will have to lie to that person indefinitely. Do you think that the broad that I lied to about my zodiac, I stayed with her through my birthday? You think the relationship between her and I lasted that long? But yes, and that's the thing. Once it's clear that this person isn't long-term potential, then stuff like that really doesn't matter because, like if I was married to her or, if she was potential wife material, then yes, I would be celebrating my birthday every year at the wrong time. And I would have to get, my family in on it and all kind of crap. So yeah, that would be difficult. But no, to lie to hit it in the short term, because you're talking about sustaining a lie. That is difficult. But since I have no reason to sustain a relationship, I have no reason to sustain a lie. But no, if I have long-term intentions on someone, then they deserve the truth.
Here's the post that I'm actually relating to. I'll post it up here on the screen so you can see it. This Yap says, I would rather be a temporary fleshlight for a 9 or a 10 than a permanent sex and housekeeper for a 5. I'm sure most women feel this way. And this is kind of the point that we've been making, isn't it? That women would rather.
Oh, y'all with the comments, I swear. It says, when you lie, you accept that you care what they think. My ego won't allow this. Mine will. Mine will. I care if they think that my penis is delicious or not. I'm not going to pretend not to like sex. If you lie on your resume to get a job, then why not lie to a broad to get a blowjob?
They're just be passed around by 9s and 10s and used and dumped and literally be a receptacle for all these guys. God knows how many things these women catch. They also catch single children and become single mothers. That's another thing they catch. But this is the whole point, is how many of them are doing this and admitting to doing it. They do not want you as an average man. They only want the top 10 percenters. Here's another example, and this is a slightly different post here, but here's another perfect example.
I did everything they said that was going to make me happy. I built a career. I got my own place. I went on solo trips like a pro, the best hotels, flying business, you name it, right? The works. And I stayed independent, but it was very lonely. I feel very lonely all the time. Don't get me wrong, like being strong got me very far in my career, and I'm very proud of everything that I've done, but I'm done pretending that I'm okay, because I'm not.
She admits feminism is doing women wrong, that telling them, oh, you can have all the things and you can do whatever you want, and all of a sudden you're going to end up aged out and alone. And only do they come to realize it too late. So this woman that says, oh, I'd rather be passed around by all the top men than rather find an average guy for myself. By the way, this is what she actually looks like.
Oh, God.
Somebody dug up a photo of her in her threads.
She might be an attractive woman who, was in the middle of a sneeze and they took a picture or something like that. The teeth aren't the best. All right. Yeah, apparently y'all want to talk about this lying to women thing. So we're gonna talk about that for a second. Listen. There's a book, and it's not for everybody. So if it's not for you, then do you, by all means. There's a book that I recommend each and every single one of you read. It may be an audio book for those of you who just like something to listen to instead, called The Pimp, or maybe it's Life and Times of a Pimp. It's written by someone named Iceberg Slim. So let me see. Hold on. Iceberg Slim. Basically, he's, rest in peace. He is an old school pimp. And one of the things that I noticed when reading him, reading his books, his autobiographies, if you will, is that he lied to women a lot. And I mean a lot. And it would be extraordinary, and it would be extraordinarily elaborate. A pimp story of my life. Thank you. It would be extraordinarily elaborate. And this is what he did to get complete and total control over his workers. Now, maybe that means he has control over them, or maybe that means that they have control over them. But it really doesn't matter when they're out selling booty for money and giving said money to him. At the end of the day, the ends justify the means. Now I know he may have said, "Oh, my ego won't allow me to do that," but he would be an extraordinarily unsuccessful pimp if he attempted to do such a thing, or if he went on ego. And I'll give an example of some of the lies, because I couldn't believe. I mean, I tell like basic lies. This man, but I'm not a pimp. This man, he just went ridiculous with it. One of the first ones he did was to buy a drink. He went into the bathroom and he had like one large bill, maybe it was $100. And he wrapped it around a bunch of toilet paper to make it look like he had more than that one $100 bill. That's lie number one. I'm like, I could not see myself doing that. That's for certain. But he was a pimp and I never was. So that's lie number one. Lie number two, and this is what a more seasoned pimp told him to do, was pretend as if you had another woman working for you. So basically what he did was, and this is ridiculous. What he did was he had one girl working for him. He got money from that one girl and he would Telegram or Western Union that money back to himself and make it appear as if it was being sent from another worker out of town. Just to keep her, I don't know, just keep her jealous or working harder or in competition mode or, in scarcity mode, so she can't leverage him by being his only worker. And I'm not going to ruin the book for those of you who haven't read it, but he also did a lie so elaborate that he actually convinced a woman that she murdered somebody and that she had to continue to work in order for him to maintain that secret. So, because like many people, I believe in results, and I understand that certain circumstances require that you set your ego aside to get said results. I'm okay with lying to a broad. I really but if you're different, hey, be different. We all have different levels of principles. I wouldn't wrap $100 bill around toilet paper. So, we all have our lines. Y'all have yours and I have mine. It is what it
is. And actually found when she had snapped a picture of herself doing something. As you can see, yes, she'd be lucky to be passed around by 9s and 10s. Let me read Myron's tweet, and then you'll understand what I'm talking about. He says, "Are the male blue pill simps starting to believe me yet? 90% of men are invisible to women, and they would rather be a whore to a top guy than a queen to an average guy. This is why you must keep your SMV high and have multiple women, or at least the impression you have them, as a reminder to your women that she can be replaced and is inferior to you, what her natural hypergamy wants. Trust me, I wish hypergamy was not real, but this is the ugly truth about female nature. You can either understand them or respect them as equals, but you can't do both." And he got about 3,500 likes on this, which, again, is fine. But here's the argument I have against this, and it's always the argument I have. He says, well, you got to let them know you have other women, or actually have other women, and you need to treat them a certain way, and you need to prove that you have high SMV. You have to prove to them that you have that, and then they'll want you. Okay, again, that is like walking into a job that is advertising that they want somebody for minimum wage, and you go in there and you lay down your resume, and it's got great resume and your work history, great work history, and you've got lots of references, and you can show how all this productivity that you've done for other companies and how you demand to have this minimum wage job, and they say, I'll take it.
Okay. Now, He does have a spectacular point, and this point, I do understand this with all content creators. I do, all game dudes, and there's a consistency in that, and that is the only time they focus on quality is when it's the quality of the man. Never with game dudes is the quality of a woman ever come into question. And that's true with guys like Lucario or Steve the Dean, like they never question the quality of women. In fact, their receipts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, are either not really existing or it's of low quality woman, meaning that if you are a guy who is attractive and you get a woman who is unattractive, you still got a woman, therefore you are considered a player. Or if you get a series of unattractive women or unvaluable women, you're considered a player. And you are qualified to give advice on this. That to me isn't really anything to brag about. And yes, a man should examine the quality of women. In fact, that should be a man's focus. However, since we're in this scarcity mindset, like the people in Asia who are working at a sweatshop, they don't see themselves in a position to actually get quality. Sad but true.
They'll hire you, and then you get the job. And you find out it's a horrible job. And you find out, wow, they really do pay minimum wage. And wow, I am really way overqualified for this job. I don't want this job. That's literally what Myron is doing for these women. He says, have high value for ugly women. Prove that you have high value, and maybe that you make good money, or maybe that you have other women waiting on the side for you, and then she'll want you. But why do you want them? That is my question. Why do you want them? And if you say, oh, it's not to date him, it's just to smash. Do you really want to jump through a bunch of hoops and faking you, or maybe?
A lie isn't a bunch of hoops. However, well, depending on how elaborate the lie is. A lie isn't a bunch of hoops, depending on how elaborate the lie is. Let's just start there.
Be working real hard so you actually have high value to prove to these women that you're worth their selection, and then they select you, and just so you can say, ha, smashed, and then you bounce?
He has a point there.
Why are you bothering to sleep with these losers? Why are you bothering to jump through the hoops for women like this? This is the whole thing I don't understand. And so much of the red pill is still focused on this. I thought we'd be somewhere, and I know I don't always use red pill to explain or describe my channel or other content like it, but I thought we'd be somewhere in time now where most of these guys would say, something, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. These women are not worth me. These women aren't worth me showing my resume, dressing up in a nice looking smart suit for our date, putting on $1,000 watch, pulling up in a nice car, going to the gym and getting buff for.
I agree. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And this is Myron Game's body of work. It's like, yeah, if you do all that, then you'll get laid. It's like, the effort far exceeds the reward. And furthermore, a man doesn't really need consultations or anything to know that. If you're a fat, broke dude and you're calling Myron and he says, don't be a fat, broke dude, then you waste however much money his consultations cost. Like, really? You actually spent money for that? You didn't know that before. You didn't know that being a fat, broke dude, like greatly reduces your sexual potential. You didn't know that. So it seems like that's the advice that they're giving, and it's nothing that a layperson doesn't really know. What men want to know, and this is the difference between alpha male strategy and most of these other guys. What men really want to know is, how do I get a woman who is prettier than I am handsome at will? That's it. That's all. And that's all a person rightly want advice for. And that's advice that Myron isn't, and most dating coach isn't giving, nor are they capable of getting. And when I say prettier than I am handsome, I'm talking about the overall value. Basically, what you're doing is you are creating yourself to be a better deal, even though they are not a better deal for you. If you are a guy that is, let's just say you are, and Obsidian said this too. He was like, you men should become 7 so you can get a 4. He says stuff like that, and I think that that's retarded. And I think that Myron, if he's pushing the same thing, he's also retarded for doing that. That's just a bad deal. I mean, granted, become a 7 so you could get a 7 and above, hopefully a 9, because she depreciates in value and you gain value. So you'll be a 9 and she'll be a 7, but so she might as well give you her 9 now. That is something that's sound, and that's what men really want, but why would you have to be told that? If you're already a 7, you pretty much know that you have access to 4s. They're not telling any information.
At a certain point, don't you say the women are not worth it anymore? Why am I going to bother with that? Because I'll tell you something. If I met a nice woman, now granted, you don't want to be a fat slob. You want to dress well. You want to take care of yourself. You want to work out and hit the gym, but do it for yourself. Because the irony at the end of all of this is the best part, and I'm getting there. You want to hit the gym for yourself. If you want to dress sharp for a job or just to look good or feel good about yourself, great. But to go out there and buy fancy watches and fancy cars and brag that you have this much money or brag that you have a certain job and try to prove to these awful, shallow women that basically will just give themselves to any man to be used and passed around. And yet something in you says, I want to be one of those men she's passing herself around to. Why even bother? And here's the crazy part. And this is where it seals it all up for me. When Myron says, make yourself a high value male and go out and achieve all this so you too can sleep with these women that have high body counts and probably they're so infested that when they take a bath, it bubbles like Mentos in a...
This man really has a problem with STDs. And I believe that, well, anyway, I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to go over some comments. It says, you cannot relate to the average sex-starved man. I can't. McDonald's look like New York Strip to a hungry man. Okay. Not only can I relate, Myron can relate as well. You see, the whole thing about, the 80-20 rule or the 90-10 rule is that it doesn't, and let's just call it the 90-10 rule. It doesn't really help. It levels men out, meaning that, in the 90-10 rule, women don't see like the 90% of men. If you are in the top 80% at that point, you might as well be in the top 2% because you're still equally invisible. So Myron has spent a large time in the bottom 90%. So he can relate. In fact, he's willing to, understand this. Just like he lies to women and create the illusion of sexual virility with hopes that it will get him more women, He has lied to men. He has given the same lie to men to get money out of them. He lies to women to get sex from them about his body count or his sexual conquest, and he lies to men to get money out of them. And it's the same lie. Body count, sexual conquest. It's the same lie. That being the case, personally, I wouldn't waste money on this crap. Oh, and another thing, he said, I thought Cheeto dust was an aphrodisiac. That's funny. Okay, here's the thing, and I can't stress this enough to people, to brothers, because there's a lot of dudes on YouTube that I disagree with in the manosphere, both black and white, and are both, macro and micro. Sex is not food, and it's not water. So please stop using the analogy, and I use it too, but I'm gonna stop. He's thirsty, he's hungry. McDonald's will look good, to a person that's starving. It is not sex. A better analogy, because you need food and water to live. A better analogy would be candy or soda pop or something sweet. So it's a treat. Now, we all like treats. However, at that point, then you can really think about the effort that you're putting into it. Like somebody say, what would you do for a Klondike bar? It's like, no, I'm not going to bark like a dog for a Klondike bar. Like, it's a treat. I'm not starving. And even if I hadn't had a Klondike bar in 20 years, which I probably haven't, I'm not going to do anything for it. I'm not going to do crap for it because it is a treat. Now, if you haven't eaten in 2 weeks, then yes, you will compromise. So that's a better analogy. Sex is not food. It's a treat. It's a Klondike bar. It's a Snicker bar. Well, maybe I shouldn't make it a bar. Given what's going on, I don't want people pausing on me, but it's really more of a treat. And here's the thing about treats, and this is where people like Myron Gaines, BGS, and other people, they fall off. That is, you don't eat it unless it's good. There's a candy out there called Peeps, I think it is. It's only served in Easter, and it tastes like trash. It's like a marshmallow duck or some crap like that. I think people eat it more out of tradition than actual taste, but it tastes like crap. There's Boston baked beans that taste like crap. What other candy tastes like crap? Here, I'm gonna just Google nasty candy, because you don't really think about it. Like, let's see, black licorice, Reese's peanut butter cup. Let me see. Sour pickle balls. What is that? Oh, those orange Halloween candy. Exactly. Listen, you don't almond joy. Exactly. Whatchamacallit. Exactly. Banana flavored. So yeah, this is crap you don't eat. Sex is like candy. Just because somebody offers it to you doesn't mean that you should take it. You actually sit and say, something? I haven't had candy in a while, but I still am not going to eat banana flavored anything. Banana flavored Laffy Taffy. I'm not going to eat, black licorice. I'm not going to eat a pack of black jelly beans. I'm not going to eat an almond joy. These are things that I have not eaten. I've probably eaten once just to know that I don't like it. A Reese's peanut butter cup. That's not peanut butter. Jif is peanut butter. It's creamy and stuff. I don't know what the hell is inside of a Reese's, and I don't want to know. So I look at sex like that. And I'm only going to eat it if it's good. I'm only going to eat like a apple Jolly Rancher. I'm only going to pay for an actual an apple Jolly Rancher or a cherry Jolly Rancher or the strawberry, even though that's not as good as cherry, but still. Once you look at it like that, yes, you can go a long time without candy, but when you get it, you get what you want out of it. But to debase yourself and to make an extraordinary effort for here, let me go back to this site. Pick one I haven't. For those yellow Halloween candies, those are freaking nasty. Then yeah. Then and that's what Myron is advocating for, and that's what a lot of the dating coaches are advocating for, and it's just disgusting. What are those candies that your grandma's friends would have in a candy dish, and it had coconut in it? Whatever that was the only thing in those dishes were like butterscotch that was worth eating. Back to the topic.
And a bowl of Coke. That's how much they fizz when they touch water because of all the STIs they have in them. But my whole point is, why are you doing this? So let's say you're Myron. Let's say he says, okay, become a high value male. Go out there and get good income. Have a nice car. Wear a nice suit. Put on a nice watch. Pretend, or maybe you do have multiple women, or pretend you have these other women, and peacock and do all these things to prove to this scam that you are totally worth it, that you're totally worth dating. She says, okay, you sleep with her. You realize, yeah, she's shallow, not somebody I want to be with anyway. So you just sleep with her and dump her. Who wins? You didn't win. Maybe you caught something. Okay, so you got your rocks off. So what? Number 2, maybe you catch something. Then you're really the loser.
This dude really has STDs on his mind. And don't get me wrong, I do a herpes check and before anal and or not anal, but before vaginal and oral sex. I don't do anal too often, and I don't like looking at an asshole. So it's not really something I think about too often. But before vaginal sex and before oral sex, I do look for herpes. And that's about it. I understand every time that I put my raw penis in a mouth, I run the risk of getting burned again. It's not that I don't care. But I don't let it deter me as much as this guy does.
And number 3, maybe she turns you down. So how would you feel as a guy that goes out and raises your SMV and you work really hard, and you make this money and you buy these nice clothes and you drive around a nice car and you try to put all this game together and you're working real hard to try to pick up a and she says no and blows you off? How do you feel about yourself at that point in time? You've wasted all this time, all this energy, all this money to jump through hoops to pick up a and then this laughs you off and tells you no.
Okay. I don't think I heard this part before, but yeah, now he's actually cooking. Now he's actually digging into, and he was before, but now he's digging deep into the psyche of Myron. He is digging deep into it because, like I said before, the Tom Likas days of women dropping panties for the possibility of being with a high value man is, I suspect, ending, or if not just flat out over. They want something in exchange immediately. And even then there's no guarantee. You take them out, they take a picture of, the temporary luxury that you have provided to them. They present it to the world as if this is just, a common thing. And then they move on. They may or may not sleep with you. It's kind of like paying for candy and then they just take your money and say, yeah, I'm not actually going to give you candy. You can pay me for it, but I'm not actually going to give it to you. It's like paying anybody. You pay for a plumber, and they're like, oh, no, just because you gave me money, I don't think that I'm actually going to fix your pipes. Or I guess clean your pipes in this instance. But you get my point. So I think I know that is what's happening to Myron a lot. And we know this because of, people just outing him, the women that he tried to sleep with to get on the show, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we know that this is happening to him. We know that he's still being rejected at his highest value. He's not going to get higher value than what he is now. He's still being rejected at this high value. So, it is unsettling for him, I can imagine. Furthermore, because before, when you're an average guy, you can always tell yourself, something? If I had a six-pack, if I made this amount of money, if everybody knew my name, I would get this. And then you don't, and you get rejected. That's got to hurt the ego. It has to.
Do you feel good about yourself? Do you feel like you're winning at the game of life? Or do you feel like, wow, I went through all these steps and a skank still won't date me? That's where I think a lot of men's sadness comes from. A lot of men clicking out of the game. A lot of men saying, this isn't working for me anymore. I'm unhappy in life. My argument is this. If you want to drive a nice car, drive a nice car. Make sure you can pay it off. Don't go into debt for any of this stuff. But if you want to drive a nice car, drive a nice car. I have a nice car. But I bought it for me, not to impress other people. Go to the gym, work out to be healthy. I need to do that myself. But I'm certainly not working out for women. I do need to do it for myself, for my own health. But if you don't do it for women and you're doing it for yourself, it doesn't matter if a woman turns you down. It doesn't matter if a woman laughs you off. It doesn't matter if a woman ignores you or whatever else, because you don't care.
And that is why I said, stop looking at sex like water or food. Start looking at it as candy. Because yes, I truly care if I don't eat food for a while, or I don't drink water for a while. But if I don't eat candy for a while, I don't mind. Now, the last time I had candy was recently. I was at this function and they had like a spread that had some licorice in it. And I had, no, not licorice. They had some red vines in it. And I took some red vines. But before that, don't know when I had it. And yes, I have access to candy at any time I want to. But I mean, it's not that big of a deal. That's how you got to look at it. Somebody says, how do you convince sex-starved men to see sex as candy? Well, good question. If a man is sex-starved and he's still alive, then he knows that sex isn't food. Let's start there. Like, yes, it's not food because you haven't had it and you're still alive. You know that approaching a woman with the thought while hungry, and she knows you're hungry, and she knows that only she can feed you, is not working to your advantage. You have better odds approaching her with a take it or leave it mentality.
See, all his advice is still centered around the woman. It's still centered on a woman judging you, on a woman selecting you, on a woman wanting you. Do all these things, guys. Keep your SMV high. Pretend you have other women and you'll get more women. Okay, but that's living your life centered around women. I still think it is way better, and you will be way happier if you said, okay, I'm not thinking about women right now. I'm going to do a job that I love. I'm going to do a job that pays me well because money is important for my future plans for myself. I'm going to work out because I want to look good, or I want to feel good, or I want to live longer. I'm going to do that for myself. I'm going to buy a nice watch, not to impress women, but because I worked really hard and I really like this certain brand of watch, or I've always wanted one, or it is me treating myself to a milestone for the success I've reached in life. All those things are fine. Then if you got a guy walking around in a suit wearing a nice watch, he's got a nice ride, he goes to the gym and he works out and he's successful, and none of that was done with women in mind. None of that was done with women. All that was done for is him. He said, this is what I want to do. This is what's going to make me happy. This is for me. If he genuinely does that without a woman in mind, I will show you a happy, successful man. Then if women are...
This is true. I mean, you know, this guy is spitting gems. This guy is spitting gems. Because once a woman smells or senses that you require her for happiness, she's either going to do one of two things. She's either going to be repulsed by you because, you know, she'll look at that as weakness. Well, okay. In both scenarios, they're going to look at it as weakness. The women are either going to embrace that weakness, meaning that she's going to exploit it, or she's going to be repulsed by it. But that is a weakness. Coming to a woman starving or thirsty, hoping to get, you know, food or water is a weakness. Those are your only two options at that point. Now, in Myron's case, even though, you know, his success, you know, the gym and everything that he does, they're still looking at him that way. They're still looking at him like, oh yes, you know, this is a guy he's desperate for. He's thirsty for, you know, this guy, he does, you know, 1,000 sit-ups a day, you know, just to get this box. Now, because women don't value sex, at least not certain women, they don't value sex the way men do. They're going to look at you as weak because they're looking at you as like, you know, you're doing all of that for something so basic. So, yeah, it is better to have that mentality.
Aren't coming up to him and women aren't talking to him and women aren't flirting with him. He doesn't give a shit. He's got a great life. He's doing his own thing. He's got friends. He's got plenty of activity. He's got a successful career, or at least a job he loves. He's winning. But a guy that does this to keep his SMV high, and maybe that's not what Myron's saying, but it's certainly when the first thing he goes to is, well, you got to keep your SMV high and let these women know they're replaceable and that you've got other women on the back burner, even if you don't. Well, you're just faking it. You're just pretending. Why are you even bothering? A better response to this is why women are single. This is why women, when they get to the age of 35 and 40, are sad and depressed because they're all alone and will be for the rest of their lives. And it's why middle-aged to older men, and even some young guys out there today, are really crushing it. And they're really happy. And they're really doing well for themselves. Reason being, they've given up on worrying about women. They've given up on dating. They've given up on those distractions. And if one falls in their lap, or they meet somebody that's nice and they say, I'd like to go out with this one, go ahead and ask her. Go ahead and go for it. Shoot your shot.
He's killing it. This dude is killing it.
But if she turns you down or it doesn't work out, it doesn't matter. You got a circle of friends and great things going on in your life. But the minute you start...
It's funny because what he's describing is what women have done to men. They have learned to deprioritize men and forcing men to give them greater priority. Now men have to do the same. And you're not going to do that thinking of sex as food, because food is something that can't be deprioritized.
Start thinking about SMV and pretending you're this and saying you're that, and you've got to raise your value to get women like this. That's where I think he's getting it wrong. And I think a lot of men get it wrong. In my eyes, and I'll listen to arguments below, so please comment down below. But I'm telling you right now, if you live your life for you and everything you do is for you, for the good of you, you know, don't say, well, I'm living for me. I'm eating my 17th bowl of ice cream today and I weigh 350 pounds, but I'm doing it for me. Because in the long run, you're not going to be a happy person. You'll have health problems and other things going wrong in your life.
True.
I'm saying if you live a healthy life, do a job that you love, that pays pretty well, that you can live the lifestyle you want to live. For some people, that's very low. For other people, that's very high. Find what works for you and live your entire life for you and your family and your friends and the people that actually care about you. Then, if a woman sees you're successful and happy and doing well and she wants to be a part of that, she will find a way to be a part of that.
Sure.
But at no point should you be doing anything to prove yourself to any of these loser women. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your life.
I don't agree with that statement entirely. I mean, you know, but there is a line. There is a cost-benefit ratio. And Myron, according to him, according to this guy and other things that I've seen, he's well over it. And he's encouraging others to, you know, increase the costs. And cost isn't just money. Cost is, you know, total effort that you put into doing it, and then you know, doing that. Now, he has to talk to those type of men because those are the only type of men that will pay for a course for it. So there is that.
Life, you're wasting your effort, all for somebody that's probably more than likely still going to either cheat on you, leave you, or turn you down for another dude because he's taller and better looking than you, and who's done nothing for that woman. Focus on yourselves. That's my argument on this one. And until men understand that portion of it, that don't fake living a good life so that women want to date you or they think they want to be a part of your life. That's a lot of what some of these channels talk about. Here's a better idea. Actually live a good life. Actually be happy. Actually do something productive with your life. And here's the great part. If you do that, good things will happen to you. Good people will find you. You will end up having good friends. You will end up having women of quality that either completely ignore you or do want to be a part of your life. But either way, you're winning. That's the thing that I think all of these guys are missing. I don't know. Let me know what you think down below. I will see you guys in the next one.
Okay. So that's that. A lot of great points on that. He's definitely on. It does seem like he's close to the what's the word? The black pill side of things. But I mean, the fact that he said that he's, you know, he's open to it, but focus on yourself. I do agree. Men should definitely do. You know, to a certain, and this is from somebody who has advocated for alliance. Like, listen, focus on yourself. If you meet a nice woman and, you know, comes to find out that she is not long-term material and you feel that a lie would get you the best of the short term from her, then by all means do so. He's just drawn a line at a different place. But yeah, his overall sentiment, I definitely agree with. Somebody said something in the chat room. I'm going to read a couple of these. It says, all women want Superman but ignore Clark Kent and end up cheating with Lex Luthor. Then they want Clark Kent to raise Lex Luthor's love child. Okay. Very nihilistic what he said. And I'm not going to say not all. But even though this is an instance where he said all, but I know what he meant. Far too many is what he means to say. And yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of truth to that. Women are looking for four things: looks, money, status, and X. Now, X is anything. X could be like favorable circumstances under which you met. X is just a number of things. It's an unknown situation. X is when you see a couple and you say, why is he with her? It's because of X. So that's something to consider. And actually, X is what Myron and others like Myron are trying to sell to you. But it's a variable and it changes every time, and it changes from woman to woman. Now, of course, people with high looks, money, and status, they don't really need X, but some of them try to sell X to you anyway. It's weird, I know. It's like, oh, I got these women off of X. Like, no, you got them off of looks, money, and status. I wish more men understood that having a relationship with a woman won't bring you happiness. Depends on the woman. I'll leave it at that. I'm 72, and looking back at most of the women in my life brought a lot of trouble and misery with them, especially my ex-wife. Okay. Thanks for sharing. Joker, you're forgetting one thing. The great advice you just gave out for free doesn't sell alpha male courses. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, first of all, I don't think that red pill and dating coach should really exist together in the same body. Yeah. Just a thought on that. Like, I mean, to highlight the faults of women or the faulty nature of many women, while at the same time trying to get you to work harder to fuck them, not a good mix. And he suffered a lot for that poor mix. He should have gotten rid of the dating coach aspect of it a long time ago. Daily reminder, there's no such thing as an incel, only hypergamy. I don't understand that, but okay. She's never yours. It's just your turn until somebody better comes along. Wow, this audience really is black pill. They have like a very, I mean, it's somewhat justified, but they definitely have a very grim view of the dating market. I don't have anything against black pillars. A woman is not the key to happiness. I agree. Freedom and independence is different forms of happiness, but I guess I would probably appreciate freedom and independence if I never had it, if I were a freed slave or a runaway slave. So I don't have the perspective. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. Let's see. The finish line isn't worth the race. Oh, good analogies. All right. So I've seen an episode of It's Complicated that I wanted to go over. So I'm going to do that now. Keep in mind that this is my first time seeing this. I like the show, so I'm going to watch it with you now. All right. So this one is entitled, What is Consent? Has a woman on there that's not too attractive. And we are going to... Oh wait, I think I've seen this one. Or is he at the same is he at the same whatchamacallit? The same fan convention?
Encounters require a safe word.
I suppose because
Why is she so big? Why are these bras so big? Look at this one on the Pokemon, the Pokemon Pikachu thing.
some people are into the fantasy of being able to say no but still have things done to them. So a safe word kind of distinguishes what is no and what is not.
Why are there some women who have a grape fantasy?
What's a grape fantasy?
I can't say the R word because it'll get me demonetized.
Oh, I have one of those. I don't know why.
All right, so he has great questions. I'm glad that she was honest in her answer. But I don't know if that's the best question to, why somebody has this fantasy. But I do know, because I know this show, that he's going to have a spectacular follow-up question to that. So I'm going to watch and see where that goes. But yes, the fantasy exists. They have them. Is what it is.
What does it mean to give valid consent?
To give valid consent, it's just all about, having that one-on-one connection and being okay with having sex.
Is consent something that must be verbal, or can it be expressed through body language?
I think it needs to be verbal.
I think social cues are
Okay. I think absence of consent should be verbal. Disconsent or non-consent should definitely be verbal. But it really puts a damper on the mood for both parties to have it, verbal, because then it sounds contractual and all that stuff. But, if she is laying there with her legs open, undoing your pants, that's pretty obvious.
are hard to read for some more than others. So I think verbal responses should always be clear and cut through.
Does consent need to be enthusiastic, or is a passive yes enough?
No, consent doesn't have to have any specific tone. What it said should be what it meant.
No, I think it should definitely have some, feeling behind it.
Holy crap, she looks like a Garbage Pail Kid. She looks like she was one of those kids, one of those white kids that rode a rusted bike that their father found in a dump yard. And instead of recycling, it gave it to her. She looks like Trailer. She really does.
Why is consent more likely to be assumed to be no rather than yes?
Usually people, when they meet, are drinking alcohol. So you assume no instead of yes, because both are intoxicated. I don't know.
If you're already with that person, why wouldn't it be more likely to be assumed to be a yes than a no?
If you've already had sexual relations with someone and you're dating, I would assume that they want to be with you. That's why you're dating.
It's assumed no, which it should be, because just because you're...
Interesting question, because the author of It's Complicated, he's basically assuming that it's assumed no when you're in a relationship. But this guy is saying that, no, he assumes yes. And so I get why the question exists, and why society would think that way. And that is because every now and again, you do get cases, and maybe this Cassie situation is like that, to where it's like, yes, we have been fucking every Thursday at 10 p.m., at the same time for the last 10 years. But this Thursday I decided to say no, and now it's great. It's like, whoa, what the hell? Every now and again, a case like that comes to court and it's taken seriously. And it's not that the woman said no during the interaction. It's just that, like, hey, this Thursday, I decided not to do it. Like, and she's in front of the judge, like, hey, so yes. But you see here, Your Honor, on November 24th, I wasn't really feeling it that time. Because ridiculous claims like that is taken seriously, guys have to be cautious.
You're in a relationship, that doesn't mean you own that person's body. You're not obligated to have sex with the other person.
If a woman wakes you with a surprise BJ, is that grape?
Good question.
I don't know. I've never had that happen to me, but there is a possibility of that not being all right.
Since he's asleep, he hasn't given verbal consent, so is consent typically assumed?
I would think that consent would never be assumed in a perfect world.
Why are men expected to read body language?
Okay, I told you. Great follow-up questions. So there was a question years ago on a Manosphere channel. I think it was like Turfling and Monkey or something like that, where a not retarded man had sex with a retarded woman. Definitely not something that I'm a fan of. And if any of y'all have done something like that, I probably wouldn't kick it with you. In fact, I almost definitely wouldn't. But I will say that it brought up an interesting question that I put in the chat room. So, if you can find it, you'll still see my question posted there. Did Jenny rape Forrest Gump? Which is an extremely fair question. I mean, he is 4 little points below the line between, let's not go there, but let's just say he is classified retarded, right? And yeah, she had sex with him. Is that great? Not only did she do it, she woke him up in the middle of the night and just put it on him. And then, they had a kid together. And she had AIDS. So, yeah, I mean, the question is, well, she's not very retarded. Jenny wasn't retarded. So, yeah, I mean, but we only ask these questions when it's a man on woman. Just like the question of waking a guy up to a surprise blowjob. We don't ask that, we don't say that if a man, was to stick it in the middle of the night. We don't.
Language, but still required to get verbal consent.
That's a tough one. That is based on looks, unfortunately, in this world. Yeah.
Can you be more specific? What does that mean?
Like, I don't know. I guess if you're attractive, maybe you don't need to ask for consent, or I don't know. I don't know. That one's hard.
So you think more attractive people are more likely to get away with?
Yes. That's what I'm saying. Yes.
When it comes to sex, why is our culture able to clearly define when it's over during climax, but can't seem to define when the sexual act begins? Wouldn't that solve the consent issue?
Yeah. Yeah.
It would, but just like every...
Okay, I'm interested in a follow-up because I think it's pretty clear when it begins. It begins the moment my penis penetrates her. Foreplay isn't sex. Sex is sex. in any hole. Like once the penis is in any hole, that's when sex begins. Now I know that not all sex is heterosexual sex, but in a heterosexual, which is the only kind I have, that's when it begins.
Climax, it's different. So every beginning move and everything, it's always different. So it's hard to necessarily define that.
So how do you legislate that if it's always different?
I don't know. I don't know.
Does no always mean no?
Yes.
Does yes always mean yes?
No.
How can no?
I agree with her answer to the first one. No always means no. Absolutely. Now, does yes always mean yes? See, I'm telling you, he has a brilliant questions, but why wouldn't that be the case? That's weird.
Always mean no if yes doesn't always mean yes.
Because some people make the choice to say yes when they really want to say no.
Girls specifically, or honestly anybody, can be pressured.
It's so dumb. And it's sad that it might not be the case that she's dumb. It's so dumb because it's woman logic. And which means that it is the law of the land. It's the lay of the land right now. Like, well, sometimes we say yes when we mean no. But we never say no when we mean yes. And I wonder what the expression on his face is. I'll probably go to Vegas one day. But I wonder what the expression on his face is. Because here's the thing. You could tell by the way they keep answering question that he maintains a neutral expression, which would be very hard for me to do with stuff like that. Because they'll see in my face like, this nigga is judging me, and then they don't want to talk to me anymore. He has maintained neutrality, which is how he's able to continue to do these every month. And people still approach him. They're not attacking him like Myron Gaines, like they attack Myron Gaines on the streets, or, they're not just trying to starve out his platform.
Into saying yes, and it's up to the person who's asking to really ask themselves whether what they're saying is truly what they're feeling.
Does no always mean no?
Yes.
Does yes always mean yes?
No.
How can...
Holy crap. Hit the like button.
No always mean no if yes doesn't always mean yes?
Because if you're drinking or intoxicated, it should just be assumed as a no.
If two drunk people meet and have drunk sex, how do you know who took advantage of who if neither?
Mullet is the funniest hairdo that a white man can do. I'm going to start by saying that. A mullet is just the funniest hairstyle a white person can have. I told you I worked at a gas station. I used to laugh inside every time I seen a white dude with a mullet. There's just something about it. I picture them walking into a barbershop and say, mullet, please. This shit's wild. Anyway, so there's that. And then why do his sexual encounters always involve drinking? Now, I've learned in college that white parties are different than black parties in a number of ways. But one of the ways is definitely alcohol consumption. They don't party unless there's beer, where black people do. And the women drink a lot, and they are more sexual than the black girls. Now, this could be because I went to a white university and, black women wanted to preserve their reputation amongst the few black people that are there, meaning it's a smaller circle, so a smaller social circle, and their reputation can spread quickly. There's that. So, yeah, beer and sex. I don't even think they have to have music. And everything they did was revolved around beer somehow. You know, like you got to do this or take a drink. You know, and then there's beer pong, and then they actually had elaborate beer contraptions where the beer begins on the roof and somehow through a series of shit that they do ends in the person's mouth who's not on the roof. So I get it, it's a cultural thing. And it does seem like, okay, so actually now I'm thinking about that and I'm thinking about how they operate. There is that factor with the guy with the mullet who's more like, you know, hey, if I'm having sex, it's going to be beer involved. That's just how we get down. So consent, the lines of consent is probably blurred.
One could offer responsible consent.
I think what's done with subconsciousness is not anything to take back or reconsider unless there's proof or evidence that can be used to prove whether consent was attained or not.
I feel like they both took advantage of each other. It's very sticky situation to talk on that. Because
she has a Michael Jackson. Look at that.
I don't think drunk people can necessarily give consent.
But who's typically blamed in that situation?
The men are the ones that tend to be blamed for it.
Why is that?
I'm not too sure. I think when men are more drunk, they're the ones that are more sexual, maybe.
Why are the consent laws targeting heterosexual men when the same situation in a gay couple wouldn't even be a crime?
I'm going to try to, by the way, I haven't seen this. I'm going to try to answer that question before her. First of all, I didn't know that was true. But second of all, I don't think that, and when he says gay, I'm assuming that he's talking about man on man. I don't think that either party is calling rape. I think that heterosexual sex is the only sexual encounter where it's commonly understood that one party benefits more than the other. And that is the men benefits more from the women. The men gain something, you know, while the women lost something. So that being the case, there with a man on man or even a woman on woman, it's not really, well, maybe man on man because one is being, I don't like to think about that. I'm going to move on. I will finish the thought, you know, somebody do complain. I'll just leave it at that.
What do you mean?
If two lesbian women or two gay men were both drunk and had sex, how would you know who took advantage of who?
I think they both took advantage of each other. Really, it's just.
Well, right, but did we establish that in a heterosexual relationship, the man is more likely to be blamed just for being a man?
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
So once again, why are the consent laws targeting heterosexual men when the same situation in a gay couple wouldn't even be a crime?
I think it's because society, we used to live in a very heterosexual men society. I think that's why nowadays people are pushing the blame more on them, especially.
I'm glad she realizes that heterosexual men have become the victims of our own success.
If women themselves often struggle to understand consent, why are men expected to understand it?
Because I don't think gender has anything to do with it. Like, no means no. It is just a human thing.
How is consent mutual if only one party holds the power to redefine the experience after the fact?
I think that whenever you are intimate with someone, it is a mutual thing. So if someone's not comfortable, you're just not comfortable.
Well, consent is mutual in the agreement, but then when it comes down to brass tacks, there is no written laws about sex, right? Yes, there are written laws about sex, but when it comes to face, it needs to have a clear.
Did this bro say there's no written laws about sex? Except the laws that are written about sex? Like, isn't there a whole SVU unit? There's age of consent laws. There's a lot of laws written about sex. Okay, I'm gonna power through this one.
Agreement, but then when it comes down to brass tacks, there is no written laws about sex, right? Yes, there are written laws about sex, but when it comes to face, it needs to have a clear conversation. I have no fucking idea. I'm going to skip that one.
Would you?
Okay, so she was just confused by the question. Okay.
You say the ambiguity in consent laws tend to benefit one gender over the other, especially when men are typically the ones blamed.
Based on the history of the last thousands of years, you would need to ask all the men.
Ask them what?
You know,
he asked the same question. I would have like asked them what? Why would I ask historical men about modern laws and perception? Why would he ask Alexander the Great that? What the fuck was that?
why do they hold all the power? Why aren't women allowed to have power? I mean, there are some.
That is completely unrelated to the question. I'm picturing Xerxes. When y'all hear long pauses like that, that's just me, like with my head. I put my thumb and my middle finger between like the top portion of my nose, and I put my index finger on my forehead to just heal myself from the stupidity. That's exactly what I was just doing now when y'all heard that pause. And I'm just trying to wrap my mind around that and trying to make some sense of that foolishness. First of all, why would she say that? Why do they have all the power? So basically, and she's saying, which she didn't say, which is what the answer she meant was that y'all have all the power, therefore we get to do shit like this. And in a way, she touched on something to where there is a male guilt thing going on, which is why we allow such ridiculous things to happen. It's because we feel guilty for being in a position of power. So we put out ridiculous laws like no fault divorce or child support or something like that. We put these things out because we have an internal sense of balance and justice that that forces us to do things like this. Women don't. They don't give a fuck how imbalanced things are. That is the fundamental difference. This broad is nuts. Is this a woman? This is Vegas. That could be a nigga with his nails polished.
Cultures that have empowerment of the women, but you know, especially here in a male-centered culture, why is it that men hold the power? Because they made the money, because they have to feed the wives and kids, because they have to hunt and gather. They made the laws. Like, why do they get all the power to?
She just drifted into a tangent of ridiculousness. See, the day I learned, and of course it's easy for me to do now because of Unseen. The day that I learned to maintain neutral expressions is the day that y'all will see me do shows like It's Complicated. And I'll call it It's Complex. No, I'm just kidding. But no, and this is true like on dates and stuff, and just generally speaking, I'm transparent. I can't maintain a neutral expression. Well, I can, but it's very difficult for me to maintain a neutral expression, especially with extreme stuff like this.
So you would blame patriarchy?
Not so much the patriarchy, because that's been our history for the past 225 years of this country, right? 250.
Is consent something that can be withdrawn after it's given?
Yes.
Is there a difference between withdrawing consent during and after the act?
That's harder. But I think once you've given something, you can have regret, but you can't really go back to giving consent.
You gave him consent. You can't put that on him. You told that person, not even him, you told that person yes. And then after the fact, you want to go and say, no, I didn't want to do this. I mean, that's kind of just like flipping the script. Because if you go tell the police that, they're going to believe the girl, and then just automatically going to think it's going to be, the whole other way around. She didn't give consent.
Somebody put in the chat room, what is he? This isn't an insult or a diss or anything, but I'm just curious what others think. I have my thoughts, but I'm curious about y'all thoughts.
The script, because if you go tell the police that, they're going to believe the girl, and then just automatically going to think it's going to be, the whole other way around. She didn't give consent.
So what's the difference between withdrawing consent after the act versus just regretting sex?
I don't think there's much of a difference.
Okay, just to be clear, for whatever reason, stop trying to guess gender. If you have to ask, I already checked out. Yeah, I checked out on her because she's fat. But if you're talking about dude, I'm not trying to guess his gender. I was trying to guess his ethnicity. What ethnicity do you think he is? Is he half? Is he a quarter? Is he part Italian? That's what I was asking.
I haven't been in that situation, but I do think once you've given consent and you've gone through the act, it's done. It's therefore anything felt afterwards is just regret.
You can say yes when you really want to say no, and I guess that's that there, but I don't think you can blame after giving consent.
If a woman can withdraw consent after sex, can a man withdraw consent after a woman is pregnant?
No.
Why not?
Well, you now have a baby in somebody else's body.
She's awful. And she looked like she was raised in the sewer underneath a trailer. Underneath the Ninja Turtle layer.
Because it takes two to tango, and you know what could have been a possibility, and that's a child.
If a man consents to sex, does that mean he's consenting to potentially becoming a father?
Yes.
If a woman consents to sex, does that mean she's consenting to potentially becoming a mother?
Yes, unless she's on birth control or you use a condom.
So why is the man often blamed for getting a woman pregnant, aka knocking her up, when it actually takes two people?
That's a good question.
Dang, he just be hitting them with arsenals.
I think that's maybe not right.
I don't think there should be any blurred lines. I think once you've given consent and regret or anything is done afterwards, it's done. It's therefore, and whatever the outcome of it is, it's just one you have to live with because consent has been clearly stated, and therefore anything after is done.
Agreed.
How does consent work in the animal kingdom?
I don't think consent. Oh, I don't know. They do like their whatever mating call, or
Don't dogs just hump things without consent?
Yes.
Why do we compare ourselves to animals when it supports our narrative, but conveniently ignore them when it doesn't?
That is a tough one too. That is a very good point. I don't know. We should probably, I don't know.
We're animals, but
Okay, I'm going to address the whole animal thing. With exception, actually, let me check on this because I'm thinking of primates. And I know canines work like this too, but I don't know if felines work like that. I know that Felis domesticus, a house cat, work like this, but I don't know if lions and tigers, and that's what I'm kind of curious about, work like that. If consent is given through lions and tigers. I'm not going to look it up. I'm just going to say what I know about each of the categories of species, and that is primates, canines, and felines. So amongst primates, they only fuck when it's a woman's time to fuck. And that's and that's during their cycle when they're fertile. The exception to this is, of course, humans and bonobos. And bonobos are a matriarchal species because they have leverage to box, and they could fuck any time of the month, and consent is required. So I want to start with primates because that's something that has to be noted. That in species where a woman don't just fuck on her fertility cycle, meaning that they are doing it solely for sexual pleasure, which is unique to species that are not humans or bonobos, that always seems to be the inevitable outcome, and that is, sexual gratification is exchanged for other things, and it eventually becomes exchanged for power and control. So that's a thing amongst primates, humans included. Now, from what I know of felines, felines, they when you see like a cat in heat, when it's their time, when it's a female cat's time, she's not selective. She just wants somebody to take what's given. And this is something that's observed in house cats. They don't get picky at that point. During that particular stage of the month, they're not out choosing, and they're not denying any suitors. It could be like a raggedy, whatever the cat equivalent to a low value man is, they will take that when that cycle comes. And yeah, so consent is really not a thing, because they work on that whole cycle thing. As far as female lions go, and tigers, from what I understand, they just want to get laid. Now, and I don't know this very well, I know what y'all thinking, lions have a whole alpha system going to where only the alpha gets laid. But from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, those who study such things, the woman just kind of lies there with her pussy out, and the men just fight, and she don't really care who wins. Just, hey, it's there. Y'all figure out who's gonna put it in, and that's that. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a lion. It could be a tiger. That's how ligers are made, if they existed together. Tigers, they don't live in prides. They're on some baby mama shit where, the tiger is just going to smash, and she's going to go on and be a single mother while he just becomes a deadbeat tiger dad. And that's how tigers live. That's what I know about that. Don't really. So take what y'all want from consent in the animal kingdom. I will say that I notice with species like humans who fuck recreationally, they do have this problem. And by recreationally, I mean they fuck when it's not their time to fuck.
But I think one thing separates us from like animals from the wild is like our consciousness. We can look and say, oh, is this what I'm doing like wrong or right? You know.
If a man gives you an engagement ring and he calls off the engagement, should you give the ring back?
I think at that point, whatever's given to you is yours, and whatever you want to do with it after is up to you.
So why is it if a man withdraws consent to an engagement, he loses the ring?
Say that one more time, sorry.
So why is it if a man withdraws consent to an engagement, he loses the ring?
Oh, that's a great question. I think just because those are more physical, like it's a ring. If you want it back, you can have it. If you don't, it's mine, whatever the case may be. Whereas
Wait, at first she said it's just mine. Now she's saying that if you want it back, you can have it. At first she said whatever she wants to do with it is hers because you gave it to her. But now, so she withdrew that statement. This is an interesting woman. I have to say that.
as an action can't really necessarily be undone. It's done for, and therefore whatever the aftermath is, you just have to deal with.
If you lose 10K in a casino and you're drunk, can you withdraw consent and get your money back?
That would be
Good
awesome.
question.
Why is
that? See, I'm telling you, and keep in mind these are all impromptu. But that was a killer good question.
sex the only area where someone can say I was too drunk to consent and retroactively undo the agreement?
Because it's your body and it's something that someone else is consciously doing to you. You go into a casino, you know you're going to get your money taken.
Losing money from a casino and having sexual intercourse that comes with so much that it's not two comparable things.
Okay. I don't like this problem. And here's why. It's not because she's the black one. Here's why. I hate it when women try to overvalue sex. And that is, and a method that they use in doing this is saying that no analogy can compare to the value of the box. Now, this is something that, you know, they give recreationally, and they do recreationally, and sometimes they do it for goods or services exchange. But they try to make it seem like, oh no, it's just this intangible thing that, you know, that has immense value and blah, 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 blah. It's like, really? Really? Okay. Somebody says she's going to say something stupid. Well, I'll give her the benefit of the doubt, but I do like have like a stupid warning coming in my head too.
Undo the agreement.
Because it's your body and it's something that someone else is consciously doing to you. You go into a casino, you know you're going to get your money taken.
Losing money from a casino and having sexual intercourse that comes with so much that it's not two comparable things.
Should sex be outlawed when people are intoxicated? And if so, why are bars the number one spot people meet to hook up?
I don't think it should be outlawed. I think that would be way too hard to control. But I just do think that it makes it complicated. And I'm big on harm reduction.
If a girl is super drunk and...
Well, yeah, what she said I wouldn't call it stupid, but it really didn't answer the question. Well, she did. She said, you know, it shouldn't be outlawed. You know, it doesn't, like, right. How can I say this? If you believe that sex under the influence can be construed as rape, then why would you allow people to have sex under the influence? Would be a perfect follow-up question to that. And I don't think she would have an answer to that question. Now, I know the true reason, and the true reason is whether they do it or not, many women, maybe even black women, are more prone to this. They want the ability to car rape on a man whenever they want. And even if they use it or not, they don't want to give up the ability. They like knowing that they have it. It's kind of like having a weapon in your home that you may never use, but you like knowing that you can use it.
And a sober guy has sex with her, is that grape?
Yes, because she is drunk.
If you had a boyfriend who got super drunk and had sex with a sober girl, was he raped or did he cheat?
Both.
Why?
Because
I want to hear what she say with why, but I want y'all to think about her answer for a second. She's basically saying if a man is raped, he cheated. A raped man cheated. So once again, you go to prison. I likes you and I want you. She gonna be like, oh wait, you cheated?
he's drunk, he doesn't give the right to give consent, and having a sexual act with somebody else while being in a relationship is cheating.
I think the secret to him remaining neutral is he asked the unobvious questions, not the obvious question. The obvious question would be, if you were raped, should a man leave you because you cheated? Like that's the obvious question, but he don't go too far down a rabbit hole because that'll probably turn them off.
He cheated. I think I'm the type of person to say drunk actions are sober feelings. So
again, that's complicated.
So if drunk actions, dang, I wish I could kick it with him like MTR and Kevin Samuels did. So I could just say, like, if drunk actions hide true feelings, then women are consenting their true feelings while drunk, then a man sleeping with a woman while intoxicated is not rape. Because drunk actions hides true feelings. Like her true feelings was to whatever action she made while drunk.
I like to ask deeper questions because I think it's always deeper than just surface level.
Is that her answer to a question? Is your answer to a question, I like to ask deep questions? Why not answer the deep question that's presented to you?
How did he cheat if he's a victim?
If he cheated, if he's a victim, again, I think I wouldn't just automatically think he's a victim, personally.
Why do Hollywood movies portray sexual encounters without clear consent and romanticize just going for it?
I don't know. They have consent behind the scenes, but it's not right how they portray it.
If movies repeatedly show men kissing women without asking, does that send the wrong message?
No.
Why not?
I don't know. But
Holy crap.
I don't know, but like you can feel when it's right, I guess.
How are men supposed to learn boundaries when popular media doesn't model them?
That's a very good question. I don't know, and I'm sure it's hard.
I think just from going out in the world, experiencing people and, talking to people, having one-on-one real life connections instead of looking at the internet, instead of looking at movies and social media.
Can a man come forward years later and say he was violated, just like women do in Me Too cases?
100%, yes.
absolutely. Anybody who is a victim has the right to reflect on the situation and reflect on their feelings and take their time to heal from that before they go out and say that they are a victim of something. That's 100% the case for both parties.
Why aren't men seen as brave for coming forward, especially when male victims are taken less seriously?
There's definitely been a stigma in America that if a man was sexually assaulted, he comes forward, nobody believes him. Men are supposed to be strong, brave, resilient. Unfortunately, it's not always the case.
Women aren't really the ones that are judging them. It's the men that look at them as being weak because, men, they love having sex. So if a man comes out saying, oh, I got forced to do this, then it's looked different. They're looked differently.
I guess the world just doesn't care about men. Like, they care about men, but in those instances, they don't think about men as much. We're always thinking about these things happening to women. So when it does, people just kind of brush it off.
Why does the Me Too movement rarely address false accusations, male victims, or mutual responsibility?
I think it's because it wants to push a certain agenda and focus more on the women. And yeah,
there's a lot of things that men have formed against us, and I feel like the same way we want to embrace our safe places like restrooms or things like that, we should also embrace Me Too as a place where women can be empowered and to speak out. But I don't necessarily think.
Okay. Is Me Too a place? I'm trying to think. Is Me Too a place? What is wrong?
A certain agenda and focus more on the women. And yeah,
there's a lot of things that men have formed against us, and I feel like the same way we want to embrace our safe places like restrooms or things like that, we should also embrace Me Too as a place where women can be empowered and to speak out. But
okay, there's a lot to unpack here. Restrooms is a safe place for men to speak out. So in her mind, men go to restrooms to take shits and have conversations while smelling the next man's shit. So we go to public restrooms to talk about our problems. Like, oh man, this new Trump administration. Oh yeah, Trump fucking up something big. Like, it wasn't like this the first term, but I'm wondering, hold on. Then he just farts and say, wondering if I should have voted for Kamala, but she probably would have been worse. And he's saying this while wiping his ass. Like, according to her, that's what we do. Not at a golf course or a cigar lounge. No, we actually have these conversations while taking a shit.
to embrace our safe places like restrooms or things like that, we should also embrace Me Too as a place where women can be empowered.
And not to mention that Me Too is a place in her mind.
And to speak out. But I don't necessarily think that should take away from holding women and men accountable.
The false accusation that
Why did she compare Me Too with men talking shit while taking a shit on the toilet? Like, I mean, because Me Too actually, people go to jail and shit like that. Men on a toilet are just talking shit. Women who are Me Tooing, in many cases when it's not true, they're ruining men's lives. And she said that's a place where we can express ourselves. We feel comfortable while men are having their lives ruined.
that really just throws a red herring into everything. It takes away from the actual damage that has been caused by these, aggressors.
Are we reinforcing
Oh, I
stereotypes
gotta see what she's saying.
into everything?
I was still just like recouping from the stupidity of this one that I didn't even like. I wasn't even paying attention to the next one. So let me listen to what she has to say.
Away from holding women and men accountable.
You know, the false accusation that really just throws a red herring into everything. It takes away from the actual damage that has been caused by these, you know, aggressors.
Are we reinforcing stereotypes by making Me Too about men harming women rather than abuse and accountability across all genders?
Good question.
I personally don't believe so, just because women are stripped from many spaces in which they can be vulnerable and speak out. A lot of societal pressures push against us speaking out, and therefore I feel Me Too also gives plenty of women a space to just speak out and share their stories and encourage.
Once again, is Me Too a place?
Other women to share their stories. So I don't think it's about taking away from men or not holding women accountable. I just think it gives them a space to do so without being violated against the way society normally does.
I agree. I think it should be all genders and everybody can experience it, not just women.
Okay.
Why isn't there a national conversation or education initiative about what consent actually means, especially in the post-Me Too era?
I think it's because men aren't as involved women are, so I just think men need to be more involved in that topic, and then I think it will become a worldwide sensation in a sense.
Okay. She touched on something, and that is that women are more social, so they are more capable of really just working stuff like that. So she did touch on something solid there. Let's see. Yeah, I think that I am done with that one. I'll probably do another. It's complicated because he has one with black people on it from a month ago, entitled "It Is What It Is: Rules of Modern Dating, Understanding Women." It's complicated. So yeah. With that, I'd like to thank everybody that participated. Make sure you hit that. Oh, wait a minute. Let me just check. All right. Give me a second, y'all. Let me just check my apps. So I'm looking at the title of International Passports stream. It's entitled "British Women Worship Black Men." Listen, whether that's true or not, I don't know. But do you think that titles like that is going to encourage such behavior or discourage it? If your answer is the latter, then why would you have a title like that? Like, think before you. And this isn't me coming after International Passport, but come on now, be strategic in your thinking. That's just a thought. All right. Let's see. All right. So I'd like to thank everybody that participated. I'd like to thank my members. I'd like to thank the managers and moderators, those who are listening silently, and those who participate in the chat. Make sure you hit that like button on your way out. This is GameChanger 00100. Game over. Peace.